Perfect. Well, it's interesting because what we experience right now, it's exactly a subject matter. It's very apropos, being resilient and finding solutions, especially right now, having some technical problems. That's what it is. But what is interesting is that I have to give a big applause to CRRA, because before the coronavirus, I had been approached by many different organizations and conferences to do presentations. And one by one, they dropped off, they canceled their presentation, their conferences. And CRRA is the only one that found a solution to still keep going at it, to find a way to adapt to the unknown that we have and to make that conference available. So that's amazing for that. And there is a parallel between what I lived the past 2 years and what we are living right now, about being able to adapt, about dealing with unknown and finding solution again. So I'm going to jump right into the water, if you will, and start talking about what the expedition that I had and what we found out. So basically, I'm an open water swimmer, long distance, and I use that mode of expression as a platform to bring people together, or at least to get the attention on important subject. And for me, it's the ocean, the health of the ocean, plastic pollution. It's a big one. And I started about 10 years ago thinking about a swim across the Pacific Ocean to do just that, to collect data and scientific information for our scientific partners, and also get the attention on the subject matter of the state of the ocean. But whenever you start a big project like that, you know that you are faced with a lot of unknown. You don't control everything. And it's exactly what happened. We spent many months at sea, and we had very rough weather. So 2 typhoons, and they were too big to try to go around them. We had to go back to Tokyo twice. And I went back in the water and covered 1,500 nautical miles. So it was about 165 days at sea. But unfortunately, our equipment didn't sustain the harsh environment. We broke the mainsail, and the reef tear up, and that was very disappointing for me, of course, because physically and mentally I was still very prepared and ready to go. So I had to stop. At that time, I kind of refocused, and I knew that there are elements that we cannot control, that I couldn't change, and I had to accept that. The same right now with COVID. They have a lot of elements that we cannot control. We have to accept that and focus on what we can control and what we can change. So even though I had to stop the swim, and we had to go to the closest mainland, at the time it was Hawaii. So we sailed across and went to Hawaii. During all that time, we kept on collecting our data, scientific data and sampling. But then I wanted to get a true sampling across the Pacific Ocean, and especially swim across the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, because the buzzword, it's something that everybody has heard about it, and there is a big myth around it. So it was very important for me to do that. So instead of saying, well, okay, that's finished, and I'm not going to be able to accomplish what I wanted, I switched my mode, and with my team, we created a second event, which was a swim dedicated for the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So the same, we had scientific partners that were there with a different protocol to collect plastic and plastic samples. So over the last 2 years, during the summer of 2018 and the summer of 2019, we were able to collect all the information that we were seeking. And it was very challenging at times, but we were able to complete what we sought out to do. So some of the protocol were about just observation. So debris watch, that's what it is. It's about observation. And we put drifter also on big debris, on mainly ghost nets. We collected numerous amount of microplastic, microfibers. We kept also pieces of plastic for toxicity, pieces of plastic to analyze what type of microbes are on the plastic and live on the plastic. So this what we did, and we had an amazing partner at the University of Hawaii who kind of give us the road and the route that we were supposed to take. So what we had to do is to combine the information that was given by him and the information that we had at the time. And we had to meet satellite and satellite trajectory so that he was able to get some location and analysis from the satellite pictures on the current and on the state of the ocean. And also, oh, I think my slide just went away. No, here it's back. Okay. And also with the information that we were collected from the location, he used both of those information to modify and to tweak his model as a predicting model on the current. So we did that. That is what it looks like from the satellite view. That is the boat. The other little white spot, it's not me swimming. It's a dinghy that we had for me to follow me. So that on board, we looked at a map that we had preloaded on different routes, on different accumulation of plastic, and we wanted to be at the right spot and find the best information we could. We rely a lot on observations. So people spend a lot of time in watches looking at the scrutinizing the surface of the ocean. And we found the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. We found the biggest piece that we could find. That is just that, you know. There's a myth about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch being an accumulation of floating plastic that makes a big island, but it's absolutely not the case. So we, back to the slide here. Here we go. So this is the biggest floating piece of trash that we found. And while the team was doing observation and collecting data, I was spending about 8 hours in the water swimming and looking down the water column all the time. That was a very important point, because when you are at the surface or when you are on the boat, you only see what's happening at the surface of the water. You don't see, of course, what is happening in the water column. And in the water column, there is a lot. If, for example, it's a ghost net here, it is not like an iceberg. More than 90% of the ghost net is going to be underwater. You just see very little from the surface. So it was very important for me to spend as much time as possible in the water swimming and getting those important observation. And once we found one of the big ghost net like that, we had different protocols. So one of them was to tag it with a GPS system so that it could be followed and give better knowledge about the current. But also we attached some different markers, biological markers, to see exactly what type of microbes is growing on the plastic and also on the wood, and to compare them in few years. And what is very also interesting is that with many cases, we had a lot of life and happening around those big debris. So there is a whole ecosystem happening around those nets. In the net itself, you are going to find crabs, you are going to find little fish. And as you go down the water and you go deeper, then you see bigger fish. You see mahi-mahi, you see barracuda. You see also much lower, you will see sharks going around as well. A whole array of sea life, sea turtles. And we realized that plastic, is, of course, having a real impact on the sea life, and because a lot of the sea life ingest it, but also it becomes a carrier for species that are not used and not made to be in the middle of the ocean. For example, that little frogfish was near a net and got carried in the middle of the ocean, in the open ocean. And it is a fish that is found near the coast. But we found many other type of trash and other type of items. A lot of it related to fishing industry. So a lot of crates and some very, very big crates. Here, one of our amazing photographer was able to go inside the crate, and they are probably one of the biggest pieces that we found. It's pieces of used for fishing. A big barrel here, I'm looking down because they all have sea life around it. They all have sea life happening and habitating. Some sea life, big fish were at the bottom of the drum there. And of course, we have known and we have seen picture of fish be eating plastic. And this is one of the protocol that we had to do. It's to catch fish. Whenever we had one fresh fish, we would open the guts and look at what was inside it. So if we zoom into that picture, we'll see that there's a piece of plastic inside the fish, and I have it here in my hand, and I kept that little piece. It's pretty sharp, so it probably doesn't feel good, of course. And that's one of the things that we noticed a lot. It's how sea life interact and get involved and very close, is very close relationship with the plastic. Of course, we found a different type of plastic other than the one used for the fishing industry. So Josh here on the left is one of our diver photographer who had many pieces around him, and the little paddlefish come around him, very curious. On the right side, I am holding what looks like some type of wrapping. We found quite a bit of plastic wrapping, food wrapping also. They deteriorate pretty fast because they are not as strong as others. But you realize that many items that that you see in the middle of the garbage patch, or all over for that matter, it's items that you can you know what it is. You know that a human had his hand on it and that it wasn't discarded properly. So there is a big education involved with the problem that we are facing. And the focus for us was always to try to communicate that, to try to show what I was seeing in the water column, what we are finding in the middle of the ocean, for people to understand that our habits need to change. We are not going to clean up the ocean, but we can surely turn the tap and limit the plastic going in. So here, a toothbrush, item that we use every day that we found, toothbrush, razor, and so on. One of the part of the pieces that we found the most was these little caps. And in every instances, when you look closer to those pieces of plastic, you realize that life is happening on the plastic. So you see that there is a very close relationship between the plastic and the sea life. And that creates, of course, a lot of problem, because animals will eat the plastic. Animals are attracted to it. And we observed that especially with those very curious albatross. They were coming and swimming with me very often, but at the same time, when they saw a little piece of plastic, the surface of the water, they went and go and tried to eat it. Or another one is the booby here. They are very curious. The sea life is in the middle is totally different from what we find on the coast and what we find especially on land for birds. You can never approach a bird, a wild bird like that. So, there is a genesis of plastic and how it degrades and cut into pieces and smaller pieces. And one of our protocol was, of course, about microplastic. So what we did is that we use a manta net and tow it beside the boat to collect microplastic that accumulates at that end, the card end. So the protocol was to tow the net for 30 minutes at a constant speed of around 2.5 knots, which is very important because at the end of that 30 minutes, you get the tow out of the water, and then you start counting whatever you collected. And you can determine the density, microplastic density, because of the amount of water that goes through the net. And this is what you find. So it's very difficult to look at it and to see, oh, there is a lot of plastic, because you collect also a lot of sea life and a lot of little jellyfish. Those little purple and blue things are mostly jellyfish. And the plastic is there, though. We and the crew, because I was most of the time swimming or sleeping, so the crew spent a lot of time just doing that, counting the amount of microplastic that they found. And sometimes they stay up very late to do that. As you can imagine, it's one thing trying to count those microplastic, and you can see that they are being picked up with a tweezers. So it's one thing to do that on land, but when you do that on a rocking boat, it's a different type of challenge that you are facing. And you come up with those type of debris, little pieces of plastic. So microplastic is 5 millimeters or less, and we collect. What is interesting is that you will notice that we found a lot of white and in the blue range color of plastic. So the theory is that we still have red plastic and other color, but since those you can distinguish them very easy, they would attract fish and birds much faster and get eaten. So that's one of the reason, or the reason why we would find less of those colored one. And that's what it looks like from the toe. But when you go underwater, that is what I was looking at. See, all those little specks, they are microplastic in the water column. At times, it was almost like being in a snowstorm at night and having all those flakes around me. But it's very difficult to find the right condition to spot them. You have to have very calm seas, because whenever you have waves and wind, it tends to push everything under the surface so you don't see it. And you have to have the right angle of the sun rays so that the light is going to bounce off of those little specks, and you will be able to see them. So that's why going on a boat across an ocean, people are going to say, oh, we didn't see much, it wasn't that dirty. But you have to spend your time in the water and below the surface to see the extent of the damage that is there. And I was talking earlier about being resilient and being adapting and all that. What you have to remember is that everything that we did was being isolated by everybody, being in a very hostile environment, because you are in a hostile environment when you are in the middle of the ocean. So you have to adapt to the surroundings. And what I had to do is to be in that water for about 8 hours a day. it was very challenging mentally and physically, but mentally, I had to be prepared. I had to know exactly what I could have a handle on, what I could change, and what I could not change, and have a little routine to go to. So every morning before going in the water, I had to prepare mentally. I spent few minutes on deck before going in the water, going through my mental routine. What I had to do is to visualize what I was going to think about for those 8 hours, because I had very little stimuli. When you're in the water, all you hear the water rushing by your ears. All you feel is the feel of the water on your hand, and you have that nasty, salty taste in your mouth. So it's very much the same over and over and over. I had to develop techniques to escape from that environment in order for me to stay that many hours and that many days in the water. So every morning I was going through my schedule of what I was going to think about for that day and be focused about it. I know exactly what not to do because in '98 I did a swim across the Atlantic Ocean from Hyannis, Massachusetts to France. And every day of that swim, I fought it. I was only looking at the end, the finish line. That's all I had in mind. And I never enjoyed what I was doing. So I knew that doing open water in the Pacific would take much longer, and I had to rethink. I had to change my mindset. I had to have a different approach. It's what I did, focusing on what I can control, not worrying about what I cannot control, and live in the moment, not thinking about the next day or the next 100 miles to cover, just living in the moment. And because you have amazing moments that happen and amazing encounters. Like, for example, the question is always, hey, Ben, what did you do with the sharks when the sharks are around? Well, they are there. That's true. But like every other animal that I encounter, they're very curious. They will come around, circle a few times, and then go on their way. So it was amazing to be in contact like that with a real sea life, be close up, and enjoying seeing them in their own environment. And at the same time, in the back of my mind, I was looking at all the plastic that we were finding. I was looking at that and saying, wow, how can those fish adapt to what is happening? All the plastic that we dump, how can they live like that? Because in the most concentrated area of microplastic, we found the amazing life, amazing sea life that was there around us. And, you know, the shark, of course, made my heart race a little bit. I stayed in the water, and I realized that what is the most dangerous, it's not the sea life. It's not the little fish that comes around. What is the most dangerous is people and mistake that we made. Here, I don't know if you have ever been in a situation when you see your life flashing in a matter of a microsecond, but it's what happened right here when somebody ran the dinghy through me. So basically, I hit the propeller on my forehead. What saved me was the snorkel that I had in front and my goggles. They were cut, but I wasn't deeply damaged. But for that split second, I saw exactly what was going to happen. I see that I was going to have a big gash or a big crack on my skull, and I knew that we were 1,000 miles away from the coast, and then my life was over. And I don't know what happened, but I was very lucky, to say the least, that it was just superficial. But that made me think that no matter what, I cannot look at the environment and be afraid of it, but I need to be very careful of human error, because that's what will happen around in those type of situations. It's always human error that will get us. We were always reminded of that amazing sea life around us, and we took a lot of time interacting with them, and everybody that was on the expedition, whenever we had amazing encounter, made sure that they had the time to jump in the water and to play. Here the dolphins stayed about over an hour with us and playing around and coming back. But even a school of mai they are very curious. They go around, they keep their distance, and they don't they are not afraid. Amazing encounter also with a fin whale that plays hide and seek for almost an hour. There were three of them. One was a little bit more curious and dove around the boat and resurfaced on the other side for many many minutes like that. They had an amazing hide and seek time. One of the most rememberable moment was when I swim with the sperm whale. It was amazing because I knew that the sperm whale was looking at me. I saw it. It was about not too far from me, 10 yards away. It passed by my right, and this eye fixed me as it went down the water. But that moment felt like it lasted an hour. It was just a split second, a few seconds. And that moment was amazing to see that gigantic animal in its own environment and going its own way and just passing by with never feeling that I was in danger. Unfortunately, that day, when I came back on the boat, my team told me, "Hey, Ben, you know what? We broke a record today." A record? What? I said, "Yeah, do you know how many pieces of microplastic we collected?" I said, "I don't know." So at the time, yeah, we broke a record. We collected in a matter of 30 minutes over 3,000 pieces of microplastic. So, which tells me that even in the most polluted part of the ocean, the sea life is not going to go away. They just feel like, well, it's polluted. We are not going to live by that dumpster. We go somewhere else. We open our shop or we build a house somewhere else. No, they are not like that. They are still going to have to migrate to those areas. They are still going to be living in those areas. And that's very, very troubling. I was also very engaged with some I have a back noise here. Sorry. Very engaged with seals. As we got closer to the coast in California, we went to a Farallon Island, and those packs of seals were like dogs playing around, coming around, and I couldn't resist going in the water, putting a big monofin and swimming with them. And underwater, that's when they interact even much more. They come much closer to us, and they are very curious again, but never felt in danger. So throughout the time that we were at sea, we tried to capture pictures, we tried to capture videos to show the sea life and to show also the problem and the pollution about plastic and microplastic that we found, as well as collecting data for our scientific partners so that they have a better understanding on the situation, on the concentration of plastic, microplastic, and so on. So, and people ask me, so, but why are you doing that? Why are you interested in doing that and sometimes putting your life in danger, maybe? For me, it's very simple. I was raised in France, and I had the opportunity to go with my father on a beach, and he took me around and we played in the sand. I never found any plastic when I was playing. Now that I have children, every time that I go on a beach, it doesn't matter if it's France, if it's another part of Europe, if it's the US, if it's Hawaii, if it's Asia, we always find plastic. So that became very troubling for me when I looked at what I'm going to pass on to my children. So the real motivation for me behind what I am doing and trying to get people to understand what we are facing is a motivation that I get from my children. And here, that's at the end of the swim when we got to California. my children decided on joining me in the last 200 yards or so. The backstory is that my wife wasn't too hot about letting them swim. It's cold, so I told her, don't worry, they will have a wetsuit. Don't worry, we'll be fine. If they are too cold, then they will get out of the water. They are not going to stay in the water for a long time, and everything went well. Once we got on land, somebody told me, hey, Ben, did you see over there when you went right under the Golden Gate Bridge, you had two sharks around you, one of a tiger shark and the other, I don't know. So fortunately, I didn't know at the time, and my wife didn't know either at the time. Otherwise, I know that she would have never let them swim with me. So, and everything that we are doing when it comes to trying to communicate, we are competing with very high-level content right now. The information is saturated, and we have to find our own spot, and we have to be original and find a way to open the door to a media outlet to communicate. So the swim is kind of that. It's a hook. It's the way to get people interested in the story. When you say, oh, there is a crazy guy swimming in the middle of the ocean, then, well, people are going to say, oh, really? And then they look at it, and then after, for us, it gives us a platform to talk about the problem of plastic pollution, and also talk about the importance of research and what the scientific community is doing to try to understand more what is the impact on the sea life and so on. But then, you know, I spent a lot of time in the water, and I had a lot of time of thinking about things, how to communicate that, and what I can do and what I could do. We found a lot of odd pieces, like a toilet seat, for example. And I found out that if I was just holding that toilet seat and take a picture and send it and try to write an article, that wouldn't be enough. So I came with the idea of jumping in the water with few items and naked. So for me, I am interested to find out if people are more kind of bothered to see me naked, or they are bothered to see those type of plastic in the water that shouldn't be there. So that's my way to try to get things moving a little bit and to get a little bit more attention on the subject matter. The other part also, you know, it's all using all type of media, because I think that education starts first, and more people who are going to be aware of the problem will be able to be will be better adapt to make their own judgment and to change their habit, because that's where the problem is the habit. We have bad habits with the plastic, how we consume it, how we use it and discard of it. So in 2018, where the crew of producer and video, also people that were there, they have put out documentary, and I have a teaser at the end of the presentation here. I don't know if we will have time to see that, but it's something that we use also, you know, videos and documentaries and books also. I have a book that came out just in June relating to the plastic that we found and to what we did in the last expedition. It is in French. It was a French publisher that approached me and wanted to know if I could share all the picture that we had. And so it's a coffee table type of book, but I'm always looking for those unusual or usual way to communicate, because we have to educate people first before we can change anything. And the last part is I would like to thank again CRRA to give me this opportunity, and also to thank them for their logo, because I think the logo, it's perfect when if I can go back to the slide here, we one too many here. That was the perfect logo to cover the right area. and to show that whatever we find in the ocean is exactly pieces that we are using on land, and we can go and shop around and find all kind of items in plastic. But we all have the same goal in mind, the same destination. I couldn't say it more than better than CRRA is zero waste. So whatever my story and telling what we see and connect with can help this to push the needle in one way or another. That's what I'm very happy to do, and always very enthusiastic to do it. So that is the end of the slide presentation. Like I said, I don't know if we have the time, but if we have the time, if somebody here can cue the video, there is a short video, it's 2 to 3 minutes, about a teaser, but the documentary that is, I think we are going to have something. Here we go. You have to remember, here we go. But Okay, that wasn't the video that I had in mind, but that shows that what we did inspire a person to provide a very powerful, I think, piece of communication here. He did all that on his own, and very pleased that with the final result.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Ben, so much. That was incredible. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the Q&A, and we see there's quite a few in there. So we've got about 9 minutes for the question and answer.
Okay, there is a question about what is the most common plastic items you find in the ocean? The most common one was those plastic lids. And I have a piece of one that is totally eating up here, but it's what we find. They are strong plastics, so I guess they sustain the element longer than just a plastic wrap, for example. But a lot, in general, I would say that we find also a lot of ghost net, those big net that fishermen dump into the water. And after seeing so many of them, you realize that those are being put intentionally in the water because they are not free floating net alone. They are a combination of net with ropes that have been tying very tight knots in them. And you can tell that it's not by the effect of the wave and the wind that brings the net together with all those different ropes. You know that the fishermen have put that together before tossing it overboard. Okay, I have another question here. What lesson from long distance swimming can we apply to the marathon of reaching zero waste? Well, I think what I learned about what I am doing is you can accomplish much more when you are passionate. I'm doing what I am doing just because I love doing it. And people are going to be involved if they feel that there is a connection with it. If you don't feel connected, if you don't feel that there is a problem with the ocean or a problem with waste in general, then people are not willing to move at all. Did you encounter cruise ships? Do you know whether some of this trash come from them? On the first expedition in 2018, we crossed few times a route that was taken by cruise ship going from and to Japan. We didn't see any big trash being dumped, any big trash floating coming from those ships. It wasn't cruise ship that we saw. Mainly it was container ship that we saw. So yeah, it was not really a route taken by cruise ship. Yeah, it was mostly container, but didn't see any big trashes that we could tell were coming from them. Could you please comment on what you can you please comment on what are the things we can do in our daily life to help reduce plastic pollution in the ocean? Sorry about that. I think first and foremost, and to realize that there is a direct cause and effect. What we do on land, it doesn't matter if it's by the coast or inland per se. If the trash is found on the land, it's going to end up in the ocean just by simple physics of water runoff. So first, we have to be very cautious about what we do and how we select our product and what we do with it once it's finished. And I will focus, if somebody wants to start and do something, I will focus on the single-use plastic and try to ban that. And plastic is a global issue, but it requires a local action because you have localities that are much more or better equipped, that are making better choices as far as plastic and plastic recycling and putting ban on certain type of plastic, and others don't. So it all depends about the country also. You have countries that ban single-use plastic, or that are going to be banning single-use plastic and put that into effect. So I think it's mainly realizing that what we do on a daily basis and be cautious on the impact that we can have. And I will start just by, getting rid of a single-use type of plastic. Okay, where was that? What sort of personal choices and habits were followers invited to undertake? Do you have any feedback on what impact the campaign has had? We have had an amazing response from the from the media because of the picture that we provided to them, and the picture were taken by very experienced free divers and very knowledgeable about what they were doing. So by providing a good and nice picture, it helped us communicate about the problem. So we have very good impact on that end. But for me, I am not a person that does big initiative like other non-profit and get people to stop using plastic in a certain way and go after it. My impact and what I do is totally different. It's try to bring people into an area where nobody will usually go, and try to show what is the impact of that particular ecosystem from what we are doing here on land. Last question, Ben, these photos are incredible. Are they published anywhere, a book, or will you be releasing them to the public so the world can see? Yeah, so in the presentation, I just had one slide about a book, that was published by a French publisher. I don't know exactly when they will go to other markets. The other things also is in the few months, everything will be updated on the website, social media, and so on, to include a lot of those amazing pictures. But I agree, the photographer did an amazing job.
Great, thank you, Ben. Thank you so much.
That was the last question here. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you very much for the work that you are doing. We don't talk enough about people like you that are very passionate about providing solution to the problem that we are all facing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That really was an incredible presentation, and it was amazing for you to share it with us, share your journey and your inspiration. I hope that people take this information and it really engages them and encourages them to do more in the amazing work that all of us are doing to address this issue. We just wanted to make a few brief announcements and reminders. First is that today from 1 to 2 p.m. is our members meeting. We hope that you'll come and check out everything that CRRA is up to. And then tonight we have our can't miss NCRRA players that will have the Zoom where it happens. You certainly don't want to miss that. And NCRRA will also have their NCRRA update this year, October 5th and 6th. So make sure that you add that to your calendars.
Speaking of conferences, the National Recycling Coalition will host their Zero Waste Business Conference December 1 through the 3rd, originally scheduled for March in Berkeley. This conference will now be held as an all-virtual event, including the first National Recycling Congress in 12 years. This conference has been organized in partnership with CRRA, NCRRA, and the nation's leading zero waste organizations. For more info, check out zwconference.org and ncrrarecycles.org, including some upcoming webinars.
And lastly, at our closing plenary at 10:15 on Wednesday, we're going to show a few of the award videos that for folks that weren't able to make it today, and of course to overcome some of the technical challenges. I don't know about you, but it seems like every Zoom or virtual conference that I've attended, there's always a few technical glitches. This is certainly no exception. but I think we're working through it really well, and we're excited to have all of you. And I hope that you'll tune in to see some of the remaining really incredible videos, including the Rick Best Award video, which you won't want to miss. Thank you all so much. We look forward to continue to engaging with you throughout the conference.